How's it going?
Great.
Who's first?
How's the ankle?
Ankle's good. Still banged up, obviously, but feeling better every day. And yeah, I think it's doing. I'm happy with where it's at.
You got the MRI done on it? Did you have the MRI?
I had an MRI on Monday, and it's a sprained ankle.
Somebody roll into you? You were in a lot of pain.
What's that?
Did somebody roll into you, or?
No,
you
I
get
stepped
on,
on a Cardinals player's foot while I was pass blocking, and I've rolled that ankle a lot, so I just think I kind of have a propensity to roll it if it's put in a weird situation. So it just, didn't take much. That's also a good sign, though, for the recovery aspect of it, is once you've torn the ligaments in there enough, they don't react as much. So I guess that's the one silver lining. My ankles are weaker, but they don't bruise up as much, I guess.
You guys were blitzed a lot on Sunday.
Yeah, we were.
And it wasn't as much, I mean, it was the most since the first game. Do you think that's going to be a trend since it worked kind of effectively?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anything that teams have that is successful, other teams are going to replicate and try and do. We got to do better against the blitz. I think that, it's one of those things, especially when an offense is dynamic and is moving the ball effectively. I mean, defenses are going to do whatever they can to stop it, So, blitzing can be very effective. It's aggressive, but, I hope teams blitz because it opens up plays down the field. I've always thought that that's something that you look forward to as a player is, when defensive coordinators are aggressive, it can open some things up explosively. So I think, we just got to keep getting better. And, that's certainly something we've focused on.
How's Jalen done in terms of taking advantage of those opportunities down the field versus the blitz?
Well, you saw it against Detroit. I mean, we did a bad job of picking up the blitz against Detroit, and he was able to take advantage of it and move out of the pocket or throw it down the field. I saw a huge play to Dallas Cowboys towards the end of the game where they blitzed, and he was able to deliver the ball quickly. We weren't picked up on that one. Ran a corner cat 4 to a side blitz, and he made a great throw to Dallas right down the seam, and was a crucial, I think it was 3rd and 14 or something like that. It was a big play on that last drive to keep us going. So, I think Jalen's gotten better and better at that, obviously, as he's gotten more experience. And he's a really good player at not just being dialed in on his assignment, but also being creative and creating things when they need to happen.
In the Cowboys case, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems their pressure is coming a lot with stunts and games up front. What are you seeing from them, and why is their pressure rate so high?
Well, they do a lot of things. I mean, I think, they clearly have great defensive linemen, and they feel confident rushing those guys, in particular their 2 edge players, Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. So, like most teams, when you're creating pressure with games and stunts and doing it with 4 guys, you are going to keep doing that and putting more guys in coverage. And if sometimes that's struggling to get home, you rush more, you blitz more, because you can't just let a quarterback sit back there and be comfortable. But they've generated enough pressure, whether it's blitz, 4-down rush. I mean, they're obviously good up front, so we got our hands full this week.
Along those lines, I think they do. The numbers say that they do run sort of games up front more than any other team.
Mm-hmm.
What does that, from the flip side, like the blitz opens up big plays? What does that open up for you guys if they're doing a bunch of games up front?
I think games are usually things that happen in passing situations because you can lose gap integrity. So obviously, Jalen being a running quarterback, if a team's going to do games, that's an added thing you need to keep in mind about, where somebody's got to be looping or having an eye on the quarterback, most likely. I think, whenever a team's running games, there's, it's not as much there as if they're doing a blitz, right? It's not an aggressive defense. Offensively, we just concentrate on passing those off, making sure that we're in balance and control. And if we can pass them off, we feel confident with our playmakers and quarterback will make plays happen.
Jason, what's the best thing you learned from Jason Peters?
Man, I don't know. It's hard to say like one thing. I would say, Jason was kind of like, yeah. Let me think for a second. I want to make sure I answer with something good. I think JP probably had the best feel for the game of anybody I've ever played with. I think a lot of players, and this is particular to offensive line play too, especially. Coaches have a tendency to be technicians. You take your first step and it's 6 inches over the lead board. Your next step is here, and you boom, 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 and that's good. That's a good base to have. But JP had just incredible awareness and feel for the game that when he already had that foundation, it allowed him to take his game to the next level. And you saw it when you would watch film with him. He would look for things that other guys just would not look at. I remember we were getting ready for the Minnesota Vikings, and Everson Griffin was like a perennial Pro Bowler, and everybody's dialed in hey, we got to stop Everson Griffin. And 3 plays into watching film is, hey, don't sleep on 99 right now. Don't sleep on this guy over here. He might be the one that's going to give us more fits. And it ended up being Daniil Hunter, who had a breakout year, 20-some sacks. And it's I think we played him early in the season. Nobody really knew who Daniil Hunter was yet. And he knew just from watching a couple steps how he moved, how he used his hands, little things that I think, in the offensive line world, you get caught up looking at structure and scheme and technique and all these things. And he was able to just pick it out of the blue. And that's kind of how he approached being in this building. It's kind of how he approached relationships. He was very much, just like a presence. And, if I've learned anything from him is that don't get bogged down into I'm trying to think of the right word to say. If I learned anything from him, don't forget the fact that you're a teammate. You're with a group of guys, and we're out here doing this together. He was much more of a guy that appreciated being a part of something. He always took younger guys under his wing. He always was out there trying to help guys off the field. My truck's breaking down. Hey man, I got somebody that can take care of your. If what you got going on with it? It's making this noise. Is this? I mean, he was less interested, in my opinion, about maybe some of the things that coaches are interested, and more interested about some of the things that make a team really close-knit and tight.
You guys obviously have done the quarterback sneak quite a bit, probably to the point where we shouldn't even call it a sneak. But what makes it so effective? I'd assume it's probably some of Jalen, also the offensive line. Why is that so effective for you guys?
Well, it's an effective play. It's one of the highest success ratings, not just us, but across the league. I think we coach it well. I think we have players that are willing to execute the play and do it the way it needs to be done. Obviously, having a quarterback that squats 600 pounds helps. Carson couldn't squat 600 pounds, though, and he was decent at it, too. I think if you run that play properly as an offense, you should execute it most of the time. You only need a yard. When the snap count's coming. There's not really many reasons why it shouldn't work. When it doesn't work, it's usually because the defense sold out, all out to go get it. They did a tremendous job of stuffing everybody and then even getting guys leaping over top of other guys. So I don't think, obviously I think we coach it well and we do it better than most other teams, but I think most teams are going to be good at that play.
Much in practice the last month or so.
I missed him a lot in training camp. I saw him a little bit, but obviously with the injury, I didn't get to go up against him much. But I have gone up against him a little bit when we've had pads on Wednesdays, and O-line, D-line games sessions and when he's out on the scout team and stuff like that.
What do you think you've seen so far of the, you know,
I
have you
don't-
seen anything? in terms
Yeah, I
of
mean, I don't
progress?
necessarily like to evaluate too much on scout team because scout team, you're trying to replicate a lot of times what the other team's doing. And for a guy that's actually playing a lot in the game, his focus should be on what's going to happen Sunday and less in that scout team rep. So I think you're just continuing to see a guy who's evolving his game. When he first got here, he was very much, and, this is the progression it takes, right? They wanted him to be across the ball, physical at the point of attack, especially when you're head up on the center. They wanted him to get into the center and create that knockback. And then he got really good at that. And when you know it's coming, you can do some things as an offensive lineman to at least, try and stop it. But now you're starting to see some other moves that he's doing. He's been able to start hitting an edge with a power rip. He's gotten more moves into the arsenal, so you can't just hunker down on one thing. And in this league, most guys are too good if you can only do one thing. If all you have is a power bull rush, most centers in the league are going to be able to counteract that with technique, leverage, and hand placement. But if the center or an offensive lineman is trying to hunker down against bull rush and leaning or whatnot, and all of a sudden you're hitting an edge and you're athletic enough to do that with quickness, that's when it gets really hard to stop a guy. Is when they can do a little bit of all that.
I'm sorry, when talking on the radio this morning about the fans,
Oh,
you referred to them as extremely localized, diehard fan base. That's
us, yeah.
So looking at the state of Philadelphia sports right now, you guys are 5-0. Phils are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
In first place in their conference. Sixers are starting next week. Everything's going very well. When it's in a state like this and you're a big contributor to that, how significant is it for you to contribute to the happiness of this fan base?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this city loves its sports, and when the Eagles are playing well, when I'm out and about, people for sure make me feel that. Whether it's going out to eat with my family or walking down the street or going to a concert, you can feel that energy emanating from the fan base. I think there's I forget what the statistic was, but I remember, somebody in here brought it up, this is a terrible statistic, but domestic violence charges are down after Eagles games. What is better than a feeling that you're contributing to lower domestic violence cases across the league, right? Or across the city? It's a terrible stat, but to know that you're maybe making people happier so that they don't do terrible things, that's one of the powers of sports, right? We've talked about this before. We're kind of in the business of hope, and when the sports teams are doing well, when the Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, everybody's kind of going in the right direction. The city is going in the right direction a lot of the times, and growing up in Cleveland, there's a lot of diehard sports fans in Cleveland. I always felt like, maybe if the Cleveland sports would have been as good as the Pittsburgh sports, we would have came out of the industrial kind of downfall better than we did. I don't know. Now I'm dragging on a little bit, but I think without question, the sports teams, the fans obviously have an effect on that, and knowing as a player that you can make somebody's day better, that's a big reason why we enjoy doing what we do.
Jason, what does this game mean? What does this game mean? This game, this moment? This
Yeah.
team's playing really well.
What is it? What does this game mean?
What does this game mean to you? Big game, big moment?
Huge game, rivalry game, but I thought Nick had a great message in here. Obviously there's going to be more energy for this game. It's a huge rivalry. It's a big game for our division, Sunday Night Football. But man, we're in this position because of what we do. It has nothing to do with the teams we play. It's how we prepare, how we practice, how we play for each other. I think that, you don't want to make the opponent the focus. You want to make your teammates and your own self the focus. And we know it's a big game. We're excited to play the Cowboys. But more than that, I think we're excited to continue to grow and play with each other.
How have you seen that? How have you seen Andre get better, especially in the time since Jordan won that job?
Yeah, I mean, Andre's continued to improve from the moment he's got here. Obviously, when you lose a competition, usually tend to see guys go one or the other ways. Like, it's you either lose hope and kind of get your head down and you kind of stop working, or you continue to work and continue to try and be prepared when your opportunity arises. And I think Andre's done a really, really good job of working. And I think if he didn't do that, Stout probably wouldn't let him do it the other way. But he's added weight, strength. He's continued to become a more powerful player and take away from some of the things that have been his weaknesses. He's continued to get better with his technique and learn about the game. And when his number's been called upon, he's answered the bell and then some. He played a really, really good game against the Dallas Cowboys last year in Dallas against Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah, whoever he was up against. And that's not easy. And I think he's continued to develop, and he's been a big part of our room and unit and team over his time here. Awesome.